The 28 millimeter lens, in my experience, it's definitely one of those lenses that people tend to either really enjoy or really don't connect with at all. And to me, that's kind of a journey that I've gone through with a 28 millimeter lens. When I first started photography, I learned largely on a 50 millimeter and a 35 millimeter, and eventually added an 85 and a 105 as kind of my main prime lenses that I would use, with the 50 being the heart of the system. And the 35 was just, I think, such a legendary lens that, so many famous people had used them that I kind of made the decision that that's where I should really go. And so I spent a lot of time with different 35 millimeter lenses. And if I look back through my catalog, look back at images that I've taken, it wasn't a lens that I used that often. I tended to stick to the 50 millimeter, longer focal lengths. And if I wanted something or needed something wide, I would kind of gravitate towards a zoom lens, something that gave me something a little bit wider than the 35. If I was doing group shots or if I was doing any kind of landscape scene or anything like that, I would tend to go a little bit wider than 35. It never quite connected with what I was doing. And I think maybe 5 or 6 years ago, the 28 millimeter, started to really become much more visible in what I was seeing on, with other photographers and, definitely camera companies with Leica's Q system. And I think the Ricoh GR, putting 28 millimeter lenses on their fixed lens cameras. It kind of made me question, why are so many people, and so many companies investing in the 28 millimeter focal length? So I decided to give it a try. And I picked up this guy, and this is the Nikkor 28 millimeter f2.8 AIS lens. If you've seen any of my other videos, you've seen it on my camera quite a lot. It's definitely one of my favorites and one of my kind of three primary lenses that I use in my kit when I'm using primes. This is definitely one of my favorite designs for lenses. I wish Nikon would make lenses like this today. Just really solidly built, really nice materials. It has a nice solid weight to it. Feels great in the hand. And most importantly, for a manual lens like this, the controls themselves just feel great. Really, really nice focus ring, both to feel from a texture standpoint, easy to grip, really nice in the hands. And the smoothness of the focus ring is just really, really nice. So easy to kind of get it exactly where you want. There's no sticky points, nothing like that. It's not loose. It's just the right amount of dampening. And one of my other favorite features, of course, is a manual aperture ring. I find that really nice and enjoyable to use. It's just got a nice click to it. It feels great when you do it. And I think, versus modern lenses, there's something to me very, classic about being able to set the aperture on the lens and see the aperture blades open and close as you do it, and know that they're staying there, that the camera isn't in control or, moving them around when it so chooses. You're doing it yourself. And I like that manual process. I would say that the 2.8 aperture on this lens is a really nice balance. Keeps the lens at a nice size, and 2.8 is, I think, a really nice wide enough aperture for a lens of this focal length. I don't find myself in a situation very often where I'm wishing for an f2 or a faster lens when I've got the 28 millimeter on. I tend to be, shooting things a little bit wider or a little bit closer, and the depth of field is something that I'm very happy with this lens. If I do want a really shallow depth of field, I tend to go to a longer focal length anyway, like a 50 or an 85 or a 105. So 2.8, I think, is just a really nice balance for this. And I like that when you put a manual focus lens like this on, a modern mirrorless camera, you get that, manual control on the lens. So it's, it kind of makes the modern camera feel a little bit more, traditional, which is a nice way to use the camera. I think the other thing is its ability to focus close. So, I can get really close with this lens and bring the subject in, and it has a nice perspective. And I think the one thing that I really like about the 28 millimeter as well is that it's not too wide. It doesn't start to distort the image to a really crazy amount and look like it's a special effect type of image. It still looks very natural. The other thing that's nice about a wider lens is you get a little bit more depth of field. So for street photography, you can definitely show more of what's going on both in width and in depth pretty easily and have your subject in focus. And, particularly with a manual lens like this, it's really nice to, just set an aperture, set a focal distance, and walk around and know that pretty much everything's going to be in focus. If you're into, using hyperfocal distance stuff, you can set that up pretty easily on here and just walk around and know that you're, within a certain range, you're going to have everything in focus, which is really nice to do with a lens like this. So I went for a bit of a photo walk the other day with the 28 millimeter and my Nikon D750 full frame camera. So the lens is running at its native focal length. And, just to get a variety of shots to kind of be inspired and, see what I could get with that lens that day. I visited two different locations. One was a bit of a park area. And then I went downtown to, see if there was anybody out and about because the weather was pretty beautiful that day. So as you can see by these images and the images in this video that are all shot on that day, it's a really inspiring lens and it does look great. There's, some wide shots that kind of show, how a 28 millimeter can give you a really nice, perhaps, storytelling image of what's going on where you are. But you're also able to get really nice and close to subjects and, keep them in nice focus and have a really nice perspective in the image as well. The other thing that I really like about this as well is it does have a nice character to it. A lot of the images that I shot, I did in black and white because to me, this kind of walk around and this kind of a focal length speaks to me that way. It kind of gives me that classic black and white, feel that I like to have. And this lens to me does it well. It's not about the sharpest micro contrast or the most detail that you can get out of a lens like a lot of the modern lenses. Don't get me wrong, this lens is very sharp. I have no issues with sharpness on it at all, but I'm not measuring it in the corners and I'm not really looking at, what kind of chromatic aberration in this lens is producing. That stuff is easily correctable in software, most of it anyway these days. So to me, it's just more about the feeling that I get with the lens, and that's important to me. I've had a G series version of this lens, and I didn't really connect with that lens. There was something about the way it rendered the background, something about the way that it just kind of made the fall off areas look that to me was a little perhaps busy, a little bit maybe distracting. Whereas this guy to me has that just kind of classic look. It's a little bit softer fall off, I would say, and just a little bit more elegant of a lens, which is something that I really like about it. So I've said this before, I think it's important to try different focal lengths if you're going to be, sticking to prime lenses. I don't get into the 28 is better or 35 is better, 24 is better. I don't get into that kind of discussion because I think it really is such a personal thing. Like I said in the past, I didn't really connect with 28 millimeters. And now that I've changed and my vision, of how I see the world is changing, the 28 millimeter resonates with me now and it makes a lot more sense to me. And I think one of the biggest things for photography for me, even though I get paid to do it, is I want to enjoy it. I want to have fun and I want to be inspired. And the 28 millimeter is definitely that for me right now. Like I said, I've had this for a number of years now and gotten a lot of use out of it. I use it for personal projects, definitely use it on, paid shoots all the time. And, it's just become a workhorse of a lens. So the 28 millimeter on the wide end and the 50 in the middle are kind of my main two go-to lenses for prime lenses, which is great. The 28 millimeter lens is definitely one that I would recommend spending some time with. It's a very flexible focal length that works great on full frame, nice not too wide view, nice for close-ups, really flexible that way. And if you've got an APS-C camera, putting this on there gives you about a 40 millimeter field of view, so very natural, very standard look as well, which I think is very useful. So great reasons to try out the 28 millimeter lens. Highly recommended in my view. And if you can get hold of some of these classic lenses for a good deal these days, I think that's a great way to go. My name is Mike Kovaliv. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and subscribe. I also have a link now to buy me a coffee if you'd like to support the channel. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thanks so much.